Hi everybody, and thanks for checking out another video here on my channel for Tim's Tech Corner. Today we are going to take a look at a Samsung Galaxy Tab 2. This is the 7-inch model. It's also known as the GT P3113. There's a similar model, which is the 3110, that does not feature the IR blaster. It might be the European version of it. I think I recall getting a little bit of information that the 3110s are European and the 3113s are American, but don't quote me on that. I do know that the 3113 is the one with the IR blaster. When I first got this device, it was not rooted. I rooted it using a Odin system. I would consider it mid-level skill for rooting, not the hardest thing in the world like an HTC Flyer, but not the easiest thing in the world like a Nexus 7 or a Droid Eris, a couple others. It's in the middle. It wasn't too bad. When I first rooted it, I actually rooted it to a 3110 ROM by accident. I thought it was a 31XX ROM, and I had backed up some apps on it prior to installing that ROM from KWBR over on XDA, and went to go use the Peel software, which I'll be getting into shortly, and one of my favorite things about this tablet. And it was like, hey, maybe you should put me on a device that has an IR blaster. And I said, yeah, you are. So I did some investigation and was like, why is this thing thinking it's not got a remote on board? And it turned out that the ROM was only for 3110s. So over here, I came and saw a GTP 3110, and that's why the IR blaster wasn't working. Tried to change it in the build prop. Wasn't that advanced in what I was doing with it, so it would boot loop and I'd have to reflash it. So I eventually switched to what you see here, which is Jellybean 4.11, and the ROM is Tab to Light RC3. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description, along with a link to Samsung's site about this device. It is a dual-core machine with 1 GHz processor. It's got 1 GB of RAM. It's got 8 GB of onboard storage, and unlike the Nexus 7, it does have removable storage. However, this thing is not quite as peppy as a Nexus 7, since this is only a dual-core, not a quad-core. It holds its own. It's got its slower moments. Its boot up time is a little bit slow, but it's a fairly solid device. I'd say if you were looking on eBay, I would go for the 150 to 175 range used, and brand new, I would go 200 to maybe 225 for it. So in taking a look at some of the settings in this ROM, we've got some dock settings here with the sound. You've got a fairly standard set of developer options, except you can set a password for your backups. You've got accounts. You've got a little bit of a set of options for the lock screen. You can set some shortcuts and information ticker like news and stocks. You can choose to have the clock and the weather. And the lock screen on this device, however, unlike the launcher, will not rotate. A little bit of a shortcoming, but here's of course the Galaxy Dandelion that everybody wants on their devices when they don't have a Samsung. And very easy to unlock. Application Manager, battery, power saving, storage display. One thing that's kind of neat about this little tab is if you go to more settings under wireless and networks, you can tell this thing to broadcast. So sitting on your Wi-Fi network or your network at home, you can share files from this device to any other DLNA devices, and you can set the name, you can set what devices are allowed, not allowed, what you're sharing, where you're going to download to, and where you can upload from. It's kind of neat, so you can load this up with all your music and your videos, and other tablets and devices will be able to find it. My home screen over here Pretty much my one that I'm using about 90% of the time is Apex. I'll be getting into Chameleon and Touchwiz a little later on. It's Ultimate Clock widget over here and Aquarium wallpaper. On the left, I've got eBay, shortcuts to Xbox Smart Glass, Peel. Now, Peel on this device is really good. Samsung has their own version with Peel that does this. Because it's got the IR blaster, it can be a universal remote control. Now, rather than give you a universal remote control like the Sony Tablet S, it's more designed to be a remote replacement. This thing is actually more of like a TV guide replacement with a remote built in. As you can see, it's telling me that at the 4 o'clock slot, these shows are on. And it thinks they're my favorites. House is, Law & Order is, Jersey Shore is trash. No, it's not. But if I pull this up, it's like, hey, here's your favorite. So, if I tap on House, it will tell me that it's on USA. If I hit Watch on TV, it'll tune my cable box to it. I can set a reminder with the clock. It gives me a episode synopsis, and I can chat about it. And over here, you have TV, you have a popcorn bucket for movies, you have sports. And both in the TV and movie categories, you can drag and drop this list in the order of like how you like stuff. So this is really good for people who don't necessarily know what's on TV, but they know they want to watch it. My mother, on the other hand, when she wants to watch TV, she knows exactly what's on. She's got it planned out. 30, 40 some odd years, she just knows that TV graph and knows exactly what is on at a given time in which she's watching TV. Me, I'm more loose with it. When I want to watch TV, I'll pull this up and, I'll see what's on. If you go over to movies, it's got the same categorization that your TV does. Sports will have it by sports, and then other, which is just like a talk show on sports. So you could sort out like football, baseball, soccer, everything else. So if I wanted to see what movies were on right now, you hit the popcorn bucket, and then you just go to the category. And then if you wanted to see Killing Me Softly, I can see that it's on Flicks right now. As you can see, the remote is not very full-featured. It's more designed for you to do it by show than by the remote. If you come out of a individual listing, you can see that you can set up multiple rooms. So my living room and my bedroom are programmed in here. And it will switch which cable you're using. So, say you only have a box in one room and generic cable in another, it knows that. You just tell it what room you're in, and it will only show you the channels and the shows accessible to you. So let's say if this was on an HD channel and you walked into a room where you didn't have HD, it would drop that off. It wouldn't show it to you. Now, one launcher that I've got here that has not been featured in any of my videos is a really neat one called Chameleon. Here is what Chameleon looks like. It gives you 2 screens by default. It considers one of them home and one of them work. What's kind of neat about this particular launcher is you can set up conditionals for what screen displays at one time. If you see down here, Wi-Fi, location, time, you can actually, if you were commuting with this tab, you can say, hey, give me my home screen every day after 5:20 because that's when I'm home, and give me my work screen at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, Chameleon is not the most featured-rich launcher for your generic tab or phone user. Where Chameleon really shines, I think, is for somebody who can keep their device with them in eyesight like all day. Like if you had this in a stand like this on your desk at work and you could just see it out of the corner of your eye and you can see your schedule. I mean, these are widgets that I set up. And you've got Chameleon ones like time, weather, your unread count, your calendar, and news. But then you can also do regular widgets like Evernote, music, there's a battery one, there's an agenda one. So, but I think this launcher really shines if you have it visible, like on a desk at home or at work, and you can just very quickly look at this and see the information that you want, kind of at any given time. Now, the standard Samsung launcher is, of course, Touchwiz. HTC has their skin, Samsung has Touchwiz. Not too sure why it's not rotating. I forget if it's a setting or not for that, but I am never on Touchwiz anymore. I'm on Apex about 90% of the time, and Chameleon remaining 10%. It's a fairly peppy device. It's got its shortcomings. I have it in this nice little plastic stand over here, and I'll show you. On the back, you can see the IR blaster, volume down, volume up. There is no tactile difference in these. There's power. There's the 3-megapixel camera. On the back side, you'll see 2 speakers and the power port, their proprietary port. You've got the front-facing camera, and you have the headphone jack on top. They did not put any of the speakers on top. Both of the speakers are on the bottom by the power cord. A little bit of an odd thing. Unlike a Nexus 7, it does have removable storage, so you can continue to expand upon this. It loses to the Nexus 7 in performance, but it's got a hard plastic back, pretty glossy. Doesn't have the rubber coating of the Nexus 7 by Asus. Standard Samsung rounded edges. The built into the notification bar, or the bottom of the dock bar, is a set of quick apps. Now, unfortunately, you cannot configure these. It would be nice if you could configure this down at the bottom, but you can only go with the ones that Samsung has given you, Samsung's own apps, their calculator, their task manager, their music player. Can't add anything else. Now, their task manager isn't too bad. If you notice over here, it shows me my recently used apps, but I have a task manager built in. So I find that it's kind of neat. And we can go ahead and clear RAM over here. We got back about 300 megs. So, I mean, I like that. On a tab, I like to keep a memory manager running just so I can clear things if I want a game on it and get rid of stuff that might be hanging out in memory that doesn't really need to be there, or an app that likes to try to give you, say, like a push notification or an update like Gun Brothers, when it'll tell you, hey, your daily login stuff is available. So this actually has it built in, and of course, you've got your Apex settings over here, your drawer, the dock, the folder. I never use a dock on a tablet. To me, the docks are mostly for phones. And your Apex settings over there, wallpaper, themes. As you can see, it's handling the live wallpaper fairly well. These fish are swimming at a decent clip, so it's not a device that's going to slow down and get piggy because you're running a live wallpaper. And here's what the app drawer looks like under Apex. I actually show you what the Touchwiz looks like this way in case you're not running it rooted. Rooting is fairly easy. I do recommend it on this one as it's not particularly too hard. There's apps, widgets. Yes, thanks. So the Touchwiz, little bloaty. If you want to look for a ROM, I'll put a link in the description to this one. Try to find a ROM that kind of de-bloats it a little bit, although I did restore some of the Samsung apps, like the hubs and the, the planner, the S Planner, S Suggest. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video on a Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 7-inch running Jellybean, the GTP 3113. Have a good one, folks.